Hans Miller sits in a Texas barracks, writing the most dangerous letter of his life. His hands shake as he writes, not from fear of bombs or tanks, but from something far more terrifying. The truth? Dear Mother, I must tell you something. A confession that would shatter beliefs, everything his family believed about America, about the war, about the real enemy. This is the story of 400,000 German POWs, who became America's greatest ambassadors. Their letters didn't just cross an ocean, they crossed a lie. By 1943, America had a problem 100,000. German POWs arrived, the largest POW population in U.S. history. These weren't just any soldiers, nor U-boat crews from the Atlantic, panzer operators from North Africa. Luftwaffe pilots, shot down over Europe, all indoctrinated, all believers, but Hitler never expected this. The Geneva Convention allowed POWs to work, to earn wages, to live American life. Nazi propaganda painted America as a wasteland, a nation of criminals, chaos, Jewish control. Goebbels said America was starving, cities burning, democracy collapsing, prisoners expected breadlines, brutality, what they found instead. Steak dinners and baseball games. Camps stretched across 46 states, from Texas cotton to Wisconsin lumber, from California orchards to New York factories. Each camp, an accidental embassy. The irony was staggering. America housed enemies and converted them. But it gets better. POWs could write letters home, uncensored thoughts about America, about guards' kindness, about U.S. abundance. Letters cracked the Nazi narrative. In bombed-out Germany, families read the truth. Believe propaganda, or your son's words. Wake-up call at 6 a.m., not brutal reveille. Guards knocked politely. Guten Morgen, boys, breakfast. The first shock of the day, real coffee, fresh eggs, white bread. Butterdog Klaus Weber, a U-boat sailor, stared at his plate. Is this normal? He asked. The guard replied, Sure, kid. Standard chow, standard chow. But a feast by German standards. By 8 a.m., work details began. The Geneva Convention allowed prisoners to work for wages, 80 cents a day. Real U.S. dollars. They could spend it at the camp canteen. What could they buy? Coca-Cola, chocolate bars, cigarettes, soap. Werner Schmidt, a panzer mechanic, tried Coke. It tastes like freedom, he wrote. Abundance went beyond food. Recreation showed another America. Orchestras, soccer, theater, boxing. Even guards joined the activities. Germans taught songs. Americans taught baseball. Where was the racial chaos Goebbels promised? Camps had libraries, newspapers, magazines. Life magazine showed prosperity. Hans Kruger read about cars, about families. Mother, they have so much they share with us. Some resisted, forming secret Nazi cells. They punished fellow Germans, but most began questioning everything, the smell of fresh bread, laughter at the movies, clean clothes, hot showers. These weren't propaganda tools. They were daily reality, and slowly. These realities appeared in letters home. The first letters were cautious, coded, afraid. Dear Father, I am well. The Americans treat us according to international law. Safe words. Expected words, but between the lines, hints of something more. By month 3, the tone began shifting. Friedrich Bauer, captured at Anzio, wrote to his wife, Liebling, you won't believe. Roast beef with potatoes and ice cream. His wife read that letter 3 times. Ice cream? In the middle of a war? American postal censors allowed these letters through. Why? Because they were more powerful than propaganda. Truth has a way of spreading. Werner Hoffman sent home a photograph with guards. Smiling, his mother stared at that photo for hours. These were supposed to be the enemy. Yet they looked human. What kind of monsters fed their prisoners steak? The letters grew bolder, more dangerous to Nazi mythology. The guards gave me aspirin when I had a headache. They let us listen to German music on the radio. An American soldier shared his cigarettes with me. Small acts of humanity. Devastating to a regime of hatred. Some prisoners described American society itself. They worked with American civilians, farmers, factory workers. Kurt Mueller worked in a Kansas wheat field. His letter read, The farmer's son owns a car, speaks of California. The cognitive break was complete. These letters became eyewitness accounts of abundance. In bombed-out German cities, families shared them. Read what Hans says about the food. Look at this photo of the American factory. They treat our boys better than our government does. Dangerous thoughts. In Nazi Germany, the most subversive letters came from POWs placed in American homes. They sat at dinner tables, watched families say grace. Otto Schneider wrote a letter that changed everything. Mother, I ate with the Johnson family. Their boy gave me his toy soldier. That letter arrived as Allied bombers destroyed Munich. Otto's mother compared the rubble with her son's words. She wondered, who were the real barbarians? The Nazi propaganda ministry never expected this problem. How do you counter eyewitness testimonies? You can't. Truth travels faster than lies. These letters carried truth across the ocean. The letters arrived like bombs, silent, invisible, but devastating. In Dusseldorf, Maria Schmidt stood in a bread line, reading her son's words about American abundance. Her ration card allowed only 2 slices a day. 2 slices, but her son was eating 3 full meals in enemy hands. Families hiding in bomb shelters heard stories about U.S. movie theaters. And ice cream. What kind of war was this? Gerda Müller kept her son's letters hidden. Too dangerous to share. They celebrate Christmas here, Mother. Gifts and Christmas trees, Christmas gifts. For prisoners. From the enemy, Goethe's world tilted on its axis. Families began connecting dots. If Americans treated prisoners with humanity, then what about Germans with Jews? Question like that could get you killed in 1944 Germany. The letters created an underground network of doubt, mothers whispered. Fathers compared notes. My Heinrich says they have libraries. Joseph writes about baseball games. They're paying our boys real wages. Each conversation was an act of resistance. Some families made plans. Quiet, desperate plans. When this war ends, maybe we should consider trailing off the unthinkable. Leaving Germany? For America. Anna Weber received 47 letters from her son in Texas. She even taught herself English from a hidden dictionary. But the Nazi Party noticed. Families were asking too many questions. Block wardens reported. Defeatist attitudes. How do you arrest mothers for reading letters? The damage was already done. The American POW experience had created a 5th column of doubt. Families weren't just receiving mail. They were seeing another world, a world where mercy replaced ideology. And once you've seen that world, how do you unsee it? In the final months, families clung to POW descriptions of stability. While Berlin burned, public camps had hot meals and safety. German mothers prayed their sons would remain prisoners, better fed by enemies, then starved by friends. Pause, that realization broke the Nazi spell forever. These prisoners became something the State Department never planned for. Accidental ambassadors. Of American democracy, 400,000 walking testimonies. Against Nazi propaganda, but it wasn't just about the prisoners anymore. By 1945, U.S. intelligence realized the impact, the most effective psychological warfare campaign of the entire war. Sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't fired. POW letters reached 2.3 million civilians. Klaus Weber's letters were read aloud by a priest in a church. Dangerous words. In Nazi Germany, Dr. Otto Schneider's stories inspired emigration plans. Families secretly learned English. Hidden dictionaries under beds. Many POWs never returned to Germany. In 1946, thousands applied to stay in America. The prison had become a promised land. Heinrich Müller married his American pen pal, opened a bakery. His strudel became famous statewide. Werner Hoffman became a TWA pilot. He bridged worlds. Once at war, the POW program had turned into an immigration pipeline. By 1960, 60,000 returned. Not as soldiers, but as immigrants. They brought families, skills, and stories. They became evangelists of the American dream. They saw America at war and at peace. Their children grew into doctors, engineers, soldiers. The ultimate victory wasn't on battlefields. It was in hearts and minds. One letter at a time, Nazi propaganda had claimed Americans were inferior, but 400,000 soldiers Saw the truth, they ate at American tables. Worked with American farmers, they were treated with dignity. They saw the enemy up close and realized they weren't enemies at all, just flawed, generous. Complicated people, that realization didn't just end a war, it helped build a peace. The last letter was written in April 1946. Hans Müller sat in Texas barracks. 3 years later, now he was writing a different kind of letter. "Dear Mother, tomorrow I go home. But part of me remains here," he folded the letter. Shook hands with his American guard, his friend. 2 years later, Hans returned. Not as a prisoner, but as an immigrant. That's the power of human connection. Over hatred, the POW program proved something remarkable. Treat enemies with dignity. And you create friends. 400,000 German soldiers came expecting monsters. Instead, they found mirrors of humanity. Their letters crossed not just oceans, but divides. In a world torn apart by ideology, they discovered decency, basic human decency. The POW camps are gone. Barracks demolished, but the letters remain. Yellowed with time, they tell how enemies became neighbors, how war ended. Not just with victory, but with understanding. If someone says nations can't understand each other, tell them about the German POWs, who learned to love America, and about the American guards, who chose to see enemies as humans. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with kindness.